What is the first game that really blew it out of the park?
Luckily, the first game that we built, which was Ludo Star, and it went viral in Pakistan, clocking more than 10 million in revenue.
Where you felt like, oh shit, we have made it as a gaming studio?
When we were, I think, 2017 or 18, and we saw a revenue of 100 crores, and that was too big for us.
Ultimately, it's all psychology, no?
Yes.
This is all like monetization models really flow from the psychology and the behavior of people. But how much would it cost if I was building like a simple RPG?
For PUBG, I think 100 million also.
That's about 800 crores.
100,000 downloads in US can give you like $10,000 also a month. Even more than that, I mean $20,000 maybe.
Wow.
Subway Surfer has been there in the market for the last 13 years. That company has been sold to Miniclip recently for 100 million.
It should have been a much bigger game considering how much of the world's attention it captured. Genshin Impact is not an Indian game, but apparently it's doing millions of dollars on the Indian Play Store, right? And I was so surprised with Genshin Impact doing so well because I'm like, wait, what? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Tier List. Today I have a very special guest, Afsar from Gameberry. And you know, I have a lot to say about Gameberry, but first I'll tell you what we're reviewing. What we're rating today is the different type of gaming genres more as a game developer. So if you're a game developer interested in making games, you want to know kisme kitna paisa hai. You want to know, okay, if I build an arcade game in India, how much money can I make? If I build a game like Among Us in India, how much money can I make? What is the scope in it? What is the competition? You want to know all of that. You're probably a developer and you are interested in some of this meaty information. Now, I've played with a few games before. I've made some games before, usually short demos. We made Overpowered, the card game. We made Mumbai Make Hadsa. But I've never made mobile games at scale. So I thought if I want to do this video, I need to get somebody who has made games at massive scale. So today I have somebody who's done that. You run Gameberry. It's done this year, I think you'll do over 500 crores in revenue. You've been around since 2017. Before we begin, I want to know your story. I think they definitely want to know your story. And then we'll get through each of these placards.
Thanks, Varun. Thanks for having me here. Pleasure to be with you and sharing the same stage in a way. So my story, I feel it begins with in 2010, second year of my college, when I feel I felt more me back then, and I came across these web technologies that was happening at that time. Facebook came into picture, Orkut had just gone back then, and when I looked at Facebook, I started feeling that this is something that I could do, and it's very much possible to build something like this. So I started learning those technologies, trying to build something that I felt could be very interesting for people. And all the next 3 years of my college went trying to build multiple things. It was every time a 6-month cycle where I was trying to build something. And by the end of 6 months, I realized it's not going to work out. So I went back, started something else, and then went back and kept doing that for like 6-7 times. And then the corporate life started. I moved to Capillary as a software engineer. But the same behavior, the same instinct of building something never went away. So me and my co-founder, we kept having discussion all the time. What do we want to build next? What do we want to build next? And we kept trying multiple things. From 2014, in 2014, I decided I would leave my job and do this full time where I would like to build something for people. And that particular point of time, it was difficult for me to think, what do I do from here? But then college seniors give you a lot of confidence that you can do something like this. You can go out, raise funds and get something started. And it felt like, okay, doable thing. So I thought, okay, let's do this. So we moved out, and two days into it, with the idea that we were thinking, we felt like this is not going to work out. We were out there in the market. It was vulnerable condition where you start to feel that whatever you thought is not going to work out. But then we put ourselves back and we started working on this idea where we were delivering an ingredient box of whatever you wanted to cook, and we called it Half Teaspoon. And the orders came from a lot of places, Bilandur, HSR, here and there, and we felt that this is going to work out, this is interesting. So we started talking to a lot of VCs, and VC got interested that this is something different in India somebody was trying to do. Fast forward 6 months, it was not working out. We were getting orders, but we were not getting repeated orders. And that year, by the end, we started realizing that we did not move out of our jobs because we wanted to do this, because we started to becoming what the VCs wanted for us to become.
Yeah.
I think that was a fundamental shift in the mindset back then. And then and we had plenty of time back then, because you were not getting orders, and there was nothing to do as such until that point. So I started playing a lot of games. We had new mobile tablet. We started playing a lot of games, and when I looked at the mobile or the games that we were playing, it occurred to me that this is something that we can build, and it's not so difficult. So I started a game called Rocket Romeo in January 2015. Built it in 2 months, put it out on Google Play, and saw people playing that game. And then I realized this is something that I really wanted to do, because art, design, technology was coming into one big place. You had an empty canvas. You could do anything you wanted to do. And with that canvas, you could go out to the users, and users would love it if you have created something unique about it. I think that's the place where I got into gaming, and I felt like this is a place where I would like to belong for years. And I decided, okay, let me spend some time in a proper professional setup of a gaming company. So I did that, and then eventually decided I wanted to start a gaming studio. So that was my story.
What was your first hit? What is the first game that really blew it out of the park?
Luckily, the first game that we built, which was Ludo Star,
it went viral.
It went viral, yes. Within 6 months, at the beginning we felt that people in India were installing Ludo games. They wanted to play Ludo game, but they were not getting what they should be getting. The social experience was not enriching. So we thought that we could build a great Ludo game, and that's where we started. And 6 months down the line, that resonated with the audience. People started playing it. People started calling other folks to play with them. And it went viral in Pakistan. And then it went viral in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, and we were all over the place. We were 2-3 million DAU by the end of that.
DAU for the audiences?
Daily active users. We were already 2 to 3 million daily active users that year. And we were clocking more than 10 million in revenue the first year of our foundation.
You know, one insight I picked up from this, which I pick up from a lot of founders talking to them, is especially till they get that first hit, they've tried a lot of stuff. You did food delivery, you worked at a company, you tried a game, then went back to a company, came back. It seems like a very messy path, lots of pivots, till that one thing kicked off. I've seen this so many times. This is the thing that audience doesn't really get, that actually to get to one place that's successful, you need to try a lot of different things, and it looks very messy and chaotic throughout. So it's very interesting hearing that story again. So if you are thinking, oh, you're working on something and it's not working out today, especially as an entrepreneur, because I think in a job it's slightly different. As an entrepreneur, you're fully dependent on the market. In a job, you're fully dependent on your boss, but it's predictable. You're given expectations on day one. But with the market, you have no idea what the market wants. And sometimes you could build something thinking this will work, and the market will be like, no. And sometimes you build a Ludo game, and then 6 months later, it's like, it goes wildfire in Pakistan, right? So some of these things in life are kind of unpredictable. So very, very interesting to hear this story. We'll get into more of it as we go through these. But I'll tell you what we have today. I'll tell you our usual format. So today I have a bunch of formats to make games, genres, right? Which we'll talk about mobile gaming mostly, but I'm sure the same genres exist in PC. So hopefully you can give us insights. You've built these at scale. Aapko pata hai, I know you've built many different games, so you know which games have worked well, which games have made money, the insights in the game, like an Among Us game, what are the challenges, you know all of it. So hopefully you can demystify us for it. We will rank these based on how much money is there and whether it's a good scope for a game developer today to build this game and to build this type of game, right? So this is what we're going to do, and these are your opinions. It is okay for you to feel a certain way. It's okay if the audience disagrees. That's all. It's completely comfortable on our channel. So without much further ado, let's take up the first game. We have arcade games, right? Like Subway Surfers, Mob Control. Yeah. Where do you think this goes? Do you have any insights on arcade games?
Yes. I would rate arcade C.
Okay. You'll have to take off the strip there. Sorry for all your arcade game builders. You have a pessimist in the house.
If you ask me, I feel arcade games are natural to go, because the first game that I was talking about myself was Rocket Romeo. It's an arcade game. Very simple to play, very highly inspired by the arcade machines that were there in the early times. But on the other hand, with mobile being a very different form factor, I feel as an instinct because of our childhood, we go towards arcade. But mobile has a different form factor, and the way you can interact with mobile is way different than arcades. So
Arcades are those machines, right? Those with the tap.
and mobile form factor gives you a lot more in-depth engagement compared to that, because you had few controls at hand. So the form factor is not suitable for these kind of games, which is why the monetization also not necessarily works really well. But the nostalgia kicks in this particular case, which is why you'll get a lot of downloads in Subway Surfer. Subway Surfer has been there in the market for the last 13 years. It still gets high amount of downloads, more than 5 million, I think, in a month. But even then, they do not make a lot of money. That company has been sold to Miniclip recently for 100 million.
Miniclip still exists?
Miniclip exists, yeah. So they got sold to Miniclip at 100 million. I think that's the number.
It should have been a much bigger game considering how much of the world's attention it captured.
But think about it. Even then, the cost of that game was 100 million itself just. So the reason for that is the nostalgia brings in a lot of audience.
Why did it cost 100 mil to make Subway Surfers?
No, 100 million to buy Subway Surfer rather than building. And they bought it because they wanted that amount of downloads that are coming to Subway Surfer organically. And all these downloads are organic for that game. Again, arcade brings organic downloads.
But not money.
But not money.
Very interesting. So if I was a junior developer and I was building an arcade game, what kind of expectation should I have? Should I just go in there saying I'll build the game and then hopefully I'll get downloads and then I'll run ads? Like let's say if I had a game and I got 100,000 downloads on arcade games and I start running ads, that's the main way to monetize, right? How much do you think I would make?
Regarding arcades, I think the function of revenue would come from geography that it is hitting.
Let's say India.
If it is hitting India and you were getting 10 million downloads a month.
Let's say 100,000 downloads.
100,000 download would give you nothing, literally. Like not even $100 a day from ads.
That's quite sad.
Yes.
So you need to get to 10 million downloads as an arcade game to even make any money.
Interesting. Especially because your geography is in India. There is a sense of nostalgia that will kick in with arcade games. But not a new arcade game will have that nostalgia.
But if I got the same, let's say 100,000 downloads in the US, then
it will be drastically different. 100,000 downloads in US can give you like $10,000 also a month. Okay. So even more than that, I mean $20,000 maybe.
Wow. So the geography really matters. So if you're building an arcade game, if there's somebody building an arcade game in the Indian setting, let's say gully, something gully, you're saying even though that sounds like a very noble idea, it might not make you so much money. It's better to hit like a global concept. Very interesting. Let's go through the next one. The next format is the puzzle game, right? So we have things like Royal Match, Candy Crush. I love playing puzzle games, especially when I'm stressed. I'm just like, I quickly open my phone and play up some puzzle game. Especially when I was younger. Nowadays it's different. Nowadays when I play games, I play a game called Dota. That gives me even more stress, right? So it has defeated the purpose of what it's supposed to do. But I know my mom plays a lot of Candy Crush and other puzzle games to relieve stress. Is there a big market for this?
Yeah, puzzle games are like huge.
Where would you plant this?
I would put it as A. I would like to put it as S, but the amount of competition because of the amount of money this category has, it makes it extremely difficult to be a S, because then the competition is very high. Any big studio would like to be in a puzzle category. All these games, Royal Match, Candy Crush, they are like $1 billion a year business. Royal Match has just surpassed Candy Crush. They do around $2 billion a year, which is massive. So because of that reason, I would not rate it S. Keep it as A.
Can you tell me why puzzle games make so much more money than arcades? It's blowing my head. Like I would assume that an arcade game someone can play casually. Theoretically should make more money than a puzzle game. This is actually news to me, and it's probably news to the audience as well.
So I think monetization in gaming, how it works is IAP will always be heavier than ads.
What is IAP? In-app purchases.
In-app purchases will always be heavier than ads, because at the end ads are shown to the user because you want to move them to a game which has an IAP at it.
So you're saying you might have multiple games, and your first game will have ads to the second game, and the second game will have some in-app purchase where you buy some different kind of ball or this or that, right? What what are people spending on in Candy Crush and Royal Match?
In Royal Match and
What
Candy Crush,
billions?
they are the whole business is around replaying a level. The better you convince a player to replay a level without moving out of the game, the better your monetization will be. So the mechanics convinces them that this is achievable by them. And if it is achievable, it's their mistake that they are not able to cross this level.
So they guilt trip you into buying.
So you feel, okay, it is just this level where I am paying, but not the rest of the levels, which technically happens. I mean, you tend to...
So you fail a level and it says start all over again. Unless you pay, you get to play this level again. So you're saying that's the asset being sold. I would assume it's some jewelry or something like that. Right?
No, it is this.
It's a life. It's a chance.
You want to cross that level. You don't want to... Even lives, for that matters, do not monetize so well now. Because people don't want to say that you told me that you can play 5 chances. That is why I've tried 5 times. And if I want more chances, you have to pay. People don't like that. People likes that, okay, I have failed at it. Let me take this help so that I can cross it. The mindset is slightly different.
It's a hint.
Yes, it's a hint mindset, exactly. So when that kind of mechanics comes into a picture where people are convinced that this is a good level where I want to cross with that hint, they will monetize. In arcade, that does not happen. There is a lot of skill at play in arcade because you're relying on dexterity over there. You can't play around with the game itself, which is why the monetization goes up here. Competition also goes up here. And most of the gaming companies, I think they want a pie of this.
I didn't know this was worth billions of dollars a year in revenue. That's so much bigger than, even the Subway Surfers of the world. This is news to me. This is something I learned while doing this conversation. And that's why this format is so useful, right? Because when you ask people to rank, someone who's an expert in the industry, who does it for a living, who's at scale, and you ask them to rank, then you learn the nuances. You learn, that makes a lot of sense. So I feel like this is very useful to everyone, me and I'm sure everyone watching. Next, let's go to the format that I think a lot of entrepreneurs in India have a problem with, the casino format. Monopoly Go, Bingo.
Yeah.
Is Monopoly Go a casino format?
It is a social casino game.
Okay.
It draws from the slot mechanics, but it's a lot more casual and social in nature. I would rate casino as B. The reason being, for me, casino is more classic in nature.
Okay.
The mechanics that we have seen, slot machines, bingo, tambola for India, teen patti for that matter, all these mechanics or the...
Would poker also fall under casino?
Poker is casino.
This I assume would be much bigger, no, in terms of...
It is big in terms of cash, but because it is so classic, your classic players, early players in this category would be dominating all the time. So poker by Zynga or poker by Playtika has been there for the last 12 years.
You can't put enough of a spin on poker, you're saying, to build a new game. Like in arcade, if you have Subway Surfers, you can make the same guy with a hat and call it Temple Run in a temple. But you can't do that with casino. You can't say Teen Patti but on a different table because it's not enough of a differentiator. Next, let's go through simulator. So Roblox, Talking Town. I assume there are lots of different simulators. Can you give us some examples of simulators doing well and can you also rank it?
I would rate simulators as S.
Really?
Yeah. Not because it makes a lot of money, but because I feel personally that there is a lot of opportunity in simulators. Especially if you look at India, you'll see a lot of truck simulator, bus simulator, Indian railway simulator being downloaded. The audience is always looking for playing around with something which is more real in nature and they can experience. You would like to be a pilot in a Indian railway bogie. You would like to drive that.
I want to tell you a very interesting anecdote. I once had an employee, this was many years ago, who used to play this VR game called Job Simulator. He used to skip work to play a VR game called Job Simulator. And I was like, what is wrong with you? You can simulate the job here if you want to. But he's like, no, I like going back home and doing a job in the simulator and doing the tasks there. It gives me a sense of calm. Here it's a little bit more stressful. Understandable, but I didn't know simulator games were that big till every day I open Steam sometimes and I'll see goat simulator, truck simulator, farming simulator, police station simulator. And I was like, wait, what is wrong with people? You can just have the job in real life and do it, but people are like, no, I want to do it from my couch sitting and playing it. So very surprising to see, this. I think you're talking about it as an S because you can simulate everything. And so the competition is low.
Yes. The competition is low, the demand is high. The only factor which might be anti for this category would be the monetization is not very, very clear. So you might have to innovate around it.
Like, can you give me an example?
Take example of truck simulators. They don't monetize so well. They have very high engagement, but how do you monetize that? You will like to sell more trucks, but that's not very, like I will not spend money on buying different type of trucks as such, unless it actually makes a lot of difference in the gameplay or the experience that I have. So that is why the monetization goes low over here. So we need, I think the developers need to innovate and think about it. And I feel innovation should always be will always be a driver in success for you.
Do you have any simulator games?
No, we don't have. I'll give you an example for that. When we started Ludo, at that time, none of the Ludo games monetized through IAP. But our business is 80% IAP driven. And anybody who is playing a Ludo game would feel monetization in Ludo is not possible. So what we did differently from everybody else in the market was we incorporated this mechanics called reroll. So once you roll a dice, we allow you to reroll cycles.
So if it's a bad roll and you don't like where you've gotten, you spend some money and you reroll.
Yeah.
Can you do that in multiplayer or only individual?
In multiplayer as well. Because the opponent also has that ability of re-rolling. So it's
everyone's
fair.
re-rolling all the time.
Yes, everybody is rolling. It's fair from that perspective. And you can choose. You have a little sense of control over life from that perspective, which is missing generally. I mean,
That's what you want from a game, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want that sense of control. I think that is why that person that you talked about in Job Simulator, I feel that person can control a lot of things and be excited about it. The external factors are not making the job unsatisfactory.
Ultimately, it's all psychology, no?
Yes.
This is all like monetization models really flow from the psychology and the behavior of people. It's not feature consa. It's like, how does the human brain think, and does the human brain want a reroll, or does it want sense of control? It's more that's dictating how much money comes into these industries.
Correct.
Interesting. And one question to ask you, right? Considering that you've made some of these games and you got to scale, and you were talking about your IAP purchases, is there a point in all of this where you felt like, oh shit, we have made it as a gaming studio? What revenue was that? And when?
When we were, I think, 2017 or 18, we were doing more than 10 million, 12 million. We were feeling
That's
that.
about 100 crores.
Yeah, that was big enough. I think we were earning what, 20 lakhs a month? 20 lakhs a year.
When you were in a job, yeah.
And we saw a revenue of 100 crores, and that was too big for us. And we had never imagined, because the circle that we had, everybody had a VC funding. We are not VC funded, we are bootstrapped. And for a company to make 100 crores, nobody had heard of it. So we were making 100 crores and we felt we were big enough unless people said, you have a great opportunity at hand. You can make this bigger and bigger. Why are we restricting ourselves with that 100 crores and being satisfied about it? And that's the point. I think that shifted fundamentally our mindset. We started poking ourselves, where are we going wrong? What could we do better from here? Because there were examples of gaming company across the world doing even better than that.
And did Google Play say, hey, look at this other company, they've scaled this much, you should?
Yeah, they had plenty of options. I mean, they can draw parallels from, let's say, what is working out in US, how Saudi Arabia might look at UX differently compared to how we look at it. But you tend to miss those points at times. So I think that an external person like Google Play coming out from outside helped us a lot to miss those blind spots.
And since then, that was how many years ago? 3-4 years ago?
That was 3-4 years.
Since then, you've gone from 100 crores to 500 crores.
Yes.
Nice. It's very strange to, hear things like, well, you were already doing well, but you had a catalyst move you 5x bigger, right? At any stage in life, there could be a catalyst. Now, where is the dream from here? Now that you have 500 crores, what's the next catalyst? Where do you think you'll go from here?
Now, I think the mindset for us has shifted drastically. For us now, the ambition is to be that 5,000 crore business. And we feel we can achieve that because we have started learning in a very different way now. Earlier, we were looking at it and saying, this could be big, this looks big enough. But after hiring smart folks in our team, they are starting to tell us that no, Afsar, this is 5,000 crores, not just 500 crores to what we are doing today. And they'll give you multiple reasons of why it can happen. And then you can, say, yeah, I want to invest in this. I want to spend more time in it, make more teams around it. And it helps a lot. And I feel very confident about the fact that we'll be hitting 5,000 crores somewhere down the line for sure.
Interesting. Let's go back. Let's take the next format. Next is RPG. I'd read somewhere about Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is not an Indian game, But apparently he's doing millions of dollars on the Indian Play Store, right? And I was so surprised with Genshin Impact doing so well because I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's an RPG. And it's not an Indian RPG. So why is it doing so well and why is it making so much? Like, what are people spending on in India on this game? So, I'd like you to rank it.
I would rate RPG games as A because of the amount of opportunity it has, but also because of the difficulty in making an RPG game successful. People would like to play RPG games a lot, especially because of the narrative sense to it. Genshin Impact has that narrative sense. You're getting into that open world. You can do anything you want. Again, the sense of control is in your hand. You can play around with it. So Genshin Impact worked in India because of that particular fact. In general, the art was fabulous. In general, the game was cross mobile plus cross platform.
Yeah.
You could play on mobile, you could play on PC. India generally has more mobile audience rather than PC audience. But RPG in general monetize really, really well because somebody getting invested into an RPG can go deeper in pocket. IP games...
Because it's a story.
Yeah, because of the story and the ability that you would like to gain. So how RPG games monetize is you would go from level X to level 10X to 100X to 1000X, whatever you want to go, you can potentially go there. And the story of those games generally have the ability to make you go there, which does not create limitation for anybody to pay. So a lot of monetization is actually the ability of the game to ask the payer to go from $0 to $1,000 in like a second. If it can do it, it can monetize more. And we internally say a lot of time that IP play is VIP play. So people who can pay a lot, if they can pay huge amounts, then your game is going to monetize. That is why RPG games work so well. They monetize like crazy. A person can spend $100,000 in just 7.
By the way, RPG stands for role-playing game. And the minute there's a role-playing game, then there is a story. So the one thing I've heard about RPGs though, compared to all the other games, is expensive to make, right? Because you have to create character, story. What would it cost me in India today if I was building like a mobile RPG?
If you were building a Genshin Impact, I don't think we can build it in India right now, especially because of the technology and mostly that the learning of getting it right. I think it will take time for any Indian studio to build that. I think that the complexity is very high. On the other hand, you can build a lot more simpler 2D version RPG games, which will also work in.
But how much would it cost if I was building like a simple RPG in India?
It should cost anywhere around 10 million to 20 million if you want.
So about 100 to 160 crores, let's say roughly.
Yes.
That's very expensive for an RPG.
Genshin Impact would be 10x of that.
So 1,000 crores they spent to build it.
Yes.
Oh my God, that is an expense. So you can't do it without VC funding. Very hard to do bootstrap. Interesting. Next, let's go to tabletop. You technically have a tabletop game, right? Ludo is a tabletop game. Tic-tac-toe, Uno.
Yeah.
Where would you plant this?
I would put it at B.
Okay, but you have a game in this category. Why would you call it a B?
Again, very similar to casino. Tabletop generally will have very classic games which are present. So if there is a user coming for Ludo, a variant of Ludo, very unlikely that the person would like to play. So very similar behavior as these.
So that's the reason you didn't go viral in India, you went viral in a new market because Indian market was crowded.
Yeah, Indian market was already playing a Ludo game. Pakistan on the other hand was not playing a Ludo game. So they had options of choosing between multiple Ludo games. They chose Ludo Star, which is also, that choice also came because of Google Play being really, really good at publishing and allowing people to explore in Play Store, which creates a lot of organic downloads.
So tell me, what is your number one insight from making tabletop games? Because you have a lot of them.
Right, I feel in tabletop genre, generally the engagement is very, very high. There is a lot of stickiness around the users. So if somebody starts to spend in your game, they will spend for next 10 years for sure, which is a great LTV to have.
You just need to get them to spend once.
Yes.
LTV stands for what is
Lifetime value of a user.
Which means how much he or she spends on you over the years.
And in this particular category, tabletop, generally most of the gaming companies don't have a monetization model, which also means that could be an opportunity over here. If you pick, let's say Uno. Uno is an IP of Mattel. You can't build a Uno game. But let's say you are building something similar to Uno and you are able to monetize it, then the likelihood of that game sticking around with people is very, very high, because they will keep playing Uno and they'll see this as an Uno game or a card game, which is very similar to Uno. But if you can monetize it, they will stick around with it and they'll start to maybe forget Uno as well.
Next, let's take on Party. So Stumble Guys, Among Us. You have an Among Us competitor. What's it called?
We had Traitor Labs was the name of the game. We tried to build on the similar lines.
Where would you put this?
I would put this as A,
Okay.
especially because this category is new. This category is with mobile coming into picture. And COVID happening in 2020, young people started socializing on mobile a lot. So you'll see Stumble Guys or Among Us being played by teenagers a lot, which means your stream of audience which is going to come, they have not been exposed to this category as such.
So this is all older people you're saying?
Yes.
Puzzle, casino, arcade. They're older people.
Yeah.
They're like 30s, 40s. Yeah. This is like 18, 19, 20.
18, 19. So
and I assume they have less money.
Less money, which is true, which is why the monetization goes down in this category. But they are crazy fans of it. Once they start to like it with their friends, they just stick around with it and they come back to it again and again. In Traitor Labs as well, I was seeing there was a stream of teenagers, have a group of 10 people. They'll come back to the game, they'll play. If you do something wrong, they'll email you that we are not able to do this, we are not able to do that. They'll be very enthusiastic about sharing their experiences also. So this cat.
They also stream a lot, no?
They stream a lot. Even Traitor Labs not being so big, we were getting few YouTubers trying to stream that as well, which was very interesting for us, because and then that guy was coming back and saying, okay, I want to become big YouTuber from here based on Traitor Labs, and we were super happy to.
Why do you shut down the game?
The biggest gap that I saw in that particular category was, even if we go big, we were not able to see how would we beat Among Us as such. We tried few modes which were very different. We had a zombie mode, which was very interesting. We started working with people as well, where there's a zombie and the zombie is creating everybody's zombie. So the one person who is not becoming a zombie actually wins the game and makes the non-zombie category win. So that was a very interesting mode which people were liking, but it was not appearing as engaging as what Among Us was doing.
So you're saying Among Us captured the brand for this category. Yes. And it's very hard once somebody has completely captured a brand for all imposter or team type games. And the only way to win now is to do something like a Stumble Guys, which is, or Fall Guys, which is different. Yeah. But still a party game.
Yeah. And Stumble Guys, for that matter, I mean, when you look at that game, again, it's not, the depth of the game is not very huge. It's the people that you're playing with.
You're having fun with them.
Yes.
It's like us talking, right? You don't know what serendipity will come. You'll fall. I'll be like, haha. That's the novelty of the game, not the game features itself, right? It's me looking at your reaction to me playing the game in real time and vice versa.
So imagine something like, I am pretty sure you would have seen the Nickelodeon shows.
Takeshi's Castle.
Exactly. Something Takeshi's Castle, or there was one Legends of the Hidden Temple. Yes, I think you would remember that for sure.
Yeah. I'm so old.
Yeah. It is nostalgic. I mean, we used to imagine when we were looking at TV.
That I'm playing.
Yes. So that is the kind of game that this game offers, because as a child, you would like to be in that space where you're competing with somebody, but not very, not
serious.
Not very serious. That's a great way of putting it.
It's a party game.
It's a party game. So I think that particular emotion for teenagers, I think this genre captures it really well, and people can build more of this. I think people are not building enough in this particular genre.
Interesting. Next, let's go to sports. FIFA, Cricket League. I'm sure there are lots of cricket games. Do you have any sports games?
No, we don't have. We restrict ourselves to more tabletop and puzzle.
Okay, that's because that's your forte.
Yeah.
Where would you put this though?
I would put sports games again over here. Not so much in monetization, very classic in nature.
So the EA sports games will work much better than you making a cricket knockoff.
Yes. So, and the games that work out in this space generally give you that sports experience altogether. Very less number of sports games you'll see monetize really well. Some of the games that I can think of is FIFA monetizes well. Golf Clash monetizes really well. These games monetize well, but they have had hard time reaching that space. because people like to play against sports game very casually. You would like to knock 6 balls and then move on to some other game. Something like that.
So you're saying the retention time is lower?
Yeah. Retention is also slightly lower, and they keep changing games. They keep trying different variants where they feel that their skill has kind of saturated.
Also, what do you monetize in this? Like, you can't charge people for a new colored ball or a bat or whatever, right? Like in FIFA, I think the monetization is the game itself. You buy the game, right? It's a paid game. But I feel like if it was a free game, it would be very hard for me to figure out what exactly I'd monetize in the game. Like even with most sports games, right? I feel like at least as a consumer, as somebody who plays the games, it's like I have no incentive to pay for anything. And that's why all these games, like everything, even for a WWE, which is not really a sports game, but a WWE, FIFA, NBA, you pay for the game first, and then you play,
Certainly.
as much as you want. You can do whatever you want in the game. And even the unlocks, like buying the Rock inside WWE, it is still with in-game currency, which you don't really pay for unless you want to. But no, I don't see anyone like paying for in-game currency just to unlock the Rock. They will rather grind the game out and then pay for it.
That's a bit of Indian mindset.
Okay.
Because in US, you'll see a lot of people doing that.
Just
Unlocking because they want to experience that particular player. And in India, what I've seen is microtransactions have kind of grown over the last 5 years. Once you are convinced in one of the games, and I'll give you my example itself. The first game that I can think of was, I think, Homescapes, which made me pay. And the reason was I got inside that game so much that I felt now I need this to unlock the other stories or the content that I want to see it. And I paid just 100 rupees for that. But then something triggered in my mind and I was
now your wallet is opening.
Yes. So I became very comfortable playing in Clash of Clans, and there are a few cricket games that I've paid in. I've paid like 20,000 rupees in one of the games. Clash of Clans, I would have spent 5,000, 6,000 rupees. So I think that opened up once I was triggered by one of the games. So India generally is opening up to that. You will see more and more games getting more and more IAPs in India, and people are starting to realize that as well.
You said IPs.
IAPs.
In-app purchase, okay. Awesome. Next, let's talk about shooters. So PUBG and Call of Duty and all that. Of course, PUBG has the secondary element of being a battle royale. I don't know. Let me just check if we have battle royales here.
It is the same, yeah.
Okay, so I think we have shooters. Like we'll call battle royale a subset of shooters.
Yeah.
Very popular. I see these people streaming all the time. Yeah. But I don't know how it would be from a money perspective. Where would you put this?
Again, from money perspectives, it is right there. Monetizing huge, especially because of the vanity factor in it. People like to show off when the other folks are watching you play.
Because people are streaming or showing clips, they want to do that nice headshot, they want to show a nice gun. Status, so you buy a golden gun because there's status. But isn't it very competitive?
It is very competitive. But on the other hand, because this is newer, mobiles have become more and more heavy in terms of RAM, which means the ability to do a lot of things have gone up. For a small developer, I think this is difficult to get into. But for somebody who can invest a little more, I think there are a lot of demand of different ways of playing shooters. Palworld is a kind of battle royale, but with Pokemon type animals, creatures. So there are a lot of games that are coming out in a different setting. And there will be games coming out in very different settings in the next 5 years, 4 years, where I think they will be first-person shooter, yet being slightly different spin-off on
with Pokemon or this or that. So there's unlimited, like simulators, there's unlimited scope for variance. But do you feel like people play shooters for a while and then stop playing and then move on, or the stickiness?
There is very high stickiness with shooters as well. Like people play heavily, especially with, again, social component in it. I think PUBG, Free Fire, they have very strong social component. So wherever you can go around with your friends, I think it is a lot more engaging.
So it has some overlap with party games in a way. It has some overlap with RPG games in a way. And it has some overlap with, even sports and arcade to some extent, right? It feels like a sport. You 5 team versus some other 5 team. It feels like war. Is it expensive to make?
It is certainly very expensive. As good as like RPG that I was talking about.
So it'll cost you 100 crores in India to make like a
more
PUBG.
More than that. For PUBG, I think it will might cost 100 million also.
That's about 800 crores.
Yeah. But for let's say a smaller version of it, probably you can do that. And there will be a lot of downloads. People even download Sniper 3D, where there is a sniper with you and then you are shooting around. Yeah. Very single player-ish. But but giving you that sniper experience. So it's you can break it down to a very small sub-genre of just being good at sniper, which is why I've placed it up. For a small developer, I think picking one of the niche is very important. They can start with niche, big developers can obviously go big.
Interesting. So we have 2 more left. Next is strategy, Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. I'm sure Age of Empires on the PC would also fit here. Where would you put this?
I would put them again on A. Should I put it?
Sure. Okay, A, we'll put it here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of money in strategy. Once you have got the game right, I think there is chance of a lot of innovation as well.
How much do the big games make?
Big games make, again, a Clash of Clans is certainly 1 billion a year, and they have been making it since last 10 years. So if your strategy component is right in the game, there is more replayability in the game. When I say replayability, it means can the player experience the same thing in a different strategy again and again, again and again. If that is present, then your strategy is right. Strategy mechanics is right, which will make the game stick around with audience longer. And they are always looking for something new. So from an audience lookout perspective, it is hot always. That if there's something new, they would like to jump onto it. The pocket is deep. They can spend a lot of money because they would like their army to be stronger and stronger. And which is why I've kind of rated it A.
Nice. If you had to choose between strategy and puzzle for a new developer in India to make, which would they choose?
I would choose puzzle, especially because I feel strategies, games, technology is a lot more complicated than puzzle.
Can you give me an example?
Imagine Clash of Clans. So if you're sending out your army, you want to be sure that the army has destroyed the base. Because the base is for the other players, the players' other base.
They'll complain if it's wrong.
Yeah, if it is mismatch, it is slightly off. If the player can hack the mobile, then it's again going wrong. So you want to be very, very sure that the placement of elements were right, which means the real-time communication between server and the mobile should be absolutely spot on.
The multiplayer replication.
The multiplayer aspect of it makes it a lot more complicated, whereas in puzzle, that complexity is not present. Puzzle games are generally one single player solo, so the complexity goes down. There is a lot more ease in building it, shipping features.
So I have a question here. For your games, what do you use?
We are multiplayer, but our multiplayer is again a lot less complex because...
No, I mean like, do you use Unity or Unreal or?
We for some games we use Unity. For some games we use Cocos 2DX, which is a C++ engine, which is not so popular, but very hardcore engine, which we used in 2017 itself. Now we have moved on to Unity for some of the games.
Is it getting easier over time with all the abstractions? If you want today an asset pack, you can buy it, this, that.
In Unity, certainly game development is a lot more easier. Cocos 2DX is a lot more tough. It is open source. It's a lot more raw in nature.
But I feel at your scale now, you don't care whether something is raw or not, right? You would care more about ease of, like, you'd use Unity because it's just easy to get the next game up and running. And then if it really works, you rebuild it again from scratch in a new way of doing things. Very interesting. And how many employees do you have today?
We have 300 people.
How many of those are Unity engineers?
Around 60 people, mostly. Not Unity engineers as such. Some would be Unity 10, 12. But we generally categorize them as game developers and software engineers, not specifically Unity, because we feel anybody who is good with coding or programming can figure it out.
Yeah. It's this weird trope on the internet where if you're good at coding, then you're only good at React. Or you have a certain GitHub commit history or whatever. People have not gotten used to it yet, especially people who are straight out of college, they've not got used to it yet that software is very wide. Yeah. Game development comes under software. Unreal, Unity are... Sure, you still write C or C++, but it's still very different from traditional engineering. But if you are a good engineer in one place, you can easily transfer over, right? You're an engineer, so you've probably you built apps, you worked at Capgemini, then you did games. So there's very wide variance in what you can do as an individual. Well, I have one last, game category, and that is racing.
Racing, it's very interesting actually, because people love to race, but the monetization again is very difficult over here.
Why?
because again, you just cannot give. There's very less number of games that have been able to monetize it. CSR2 is one of the games I think they do.
What's it called?
CSR2. They monetize around 70 million a year, but that's the max I have heard about racing games.
That's not very good.
That's not very good, yes. That is especially because, again, you cannot play around with the mechanics of it. You are going to race. You cannot make it so unfair that you are getting a Mercedes and I'm getting a Tata Sumo. You can't make that happen.
So you have to give all your players equal access.
Yeah. Very similar. So probably the monetization will start to come in similar to shooter, where probably the skin of the car would matter, or the whole game could be a very story-based game. Again, then it becomes like more like RPG meets racing in that particular case, because then you are solo. Then in solo you can like spend more money, get better car, and then you can defeat the villain. That's a very different thing.
Where would you plant this?
I would rate it B. But I feel that there's a lot of interest in racing games in general. People like to try doctor driving also, to competitive racing like Horizon and then Forza. And
I spend a lot on racing games. Right? Like more to buy the game, and after that, I'd like to grind and unlock it. Even though you're right, it's an Indian mentality. Like I would not like to pay for a car. I would like to grind and get it. But yeah, like solo games. But I can understand, like apart from the Forzas of the world and maybe 2-3 top racing games, I wouldn't try a new one. Because I need the best graphics, I need the best, features. There's no point trying a tier 2 or a tier 3 racing game, because I'm like, the best one will anyway have all of this. It's all the same cars anyway, right? And licensing the cars actually matters. In EA Sports, like cricket, you had all those fake names of those things. In racing also, I've seen some of that. So very interesting to see this being ranked a B. And very interesting to also hear that the best racing games only make like 70 mil. Right? That's the top game you're saying on mobile making 70 mil. I have one last question for you. We're done with the tier list. Why do you choose to do mobile games over PC games?
I feel for me, particularly when I was getting into gaming, I felt I would like to do something where the results are a lot more faster. I feel PC games, the results are slower in nature. You would like to build something it takes time to build those games. People like very well polished games. In mobile, the audience is a lot more casual in nature, so you can get the result faster. So it's a lean startup mentality where you get things out fast and get things.
And also, like the Play Store has distribution. Like with a PC game, you're going to probably Steam, and then you still have to promote it and this and that. Here on mobile store, if you get to some scale, or if you're able to push it through, like, you will get promoted in a way.
Great point.
That mentality?
That is 100% true. In fact, that is one of the reasons why there are so many gaming companies out there. Because Play Store in general distributes and gives you a visibility which otherwise
you would not get.
So I think that certainly adds up to the whole thing.
Interesting, yeah. This was probably one of the most enlightening conversations I've had in a very long time, because I learned the entire lay of the layout. Like now I understand, if I were to ever bet on a gaming this thing or build a full game or whatever, I'm not really a big fan of mobile games personally, so it doesn't align my interest. That's why I've never built a full mobile game. I prefer to build PC demos, or like we built this card game called Overpowered the Card Game, but we wanted it to be played on PC. It's just one of those things where I didn't really do it because I wanted to make money. I just wanted to have fun. And I feel like I now have a full lay of the land of mobile games. I know if I were to spend money where I would do it. I know some which are too expensive for me to do. I know everything. And I know which are bad ideas as well. So thank you so much for this. I owe you one. This is a masterclass. I'm sure the audience who stuck with us so far has also learned quite a bit. Do you have anything last to say to the audience before you leave?
I can actually add one more thing in this particular category. I think it will be useful for a lot of developers. One of the reasons why I've also put simulators over here is because of Roblox. And Roblox in itself gives you a little bit of window to develop a lot of things. I mean, you can
make games, you can make worlds inside Roblox.
So I think that is particularly very useful for young developers who are trying to get into gaming, because Roblox is one of the places you can go and probably build some small things and get some initial success there as well.
Very interesting. So allowing players to build inside of your game is an unlock in itself, right? And then they're more invested. It has elements of role playing. So you're playing the role. Therefore, you spend more on the game eventually. Very, very fascinating. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for enlightening us. This is a masterclass. This is like an MBA session or something like that, right? But for gaming. And this is the value of the series, where I can just get experts who are like somebody at like 100 crores, 500,000 crores in revenue, get them here and be like, listen, split apart your industry for me. I'm a layman. I've got this stack of things. Please break the industry away from me. And I think this was very, very useful. Like for me personally, and I'm sure for the audience as well. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.